All right, in language today, we are doing pages 268 through 271. Now, actually, we're going to skip page 268. It's the creative writing. We're going to be doing a research paper at the end of the year, so we're not going to worry about that. That's something we can skip for now. So go ahead and just skip page 268, and then you can skip right B on page 269. So we're skipping that completely. On page 269, all you're going to be doing is the Remember C. So make sure you do the Remember C, which is the parts of speech. So find the parts of speech. Find out what part of speech the underlined word is. Okay, you should be able to do that without any problems on your own. So we're going to start on page 269 in the video. And this is digging for complements. Now, you already know that every sentence has two basic parts. We have the subject and the verb, right? The subject and the predicate. You will be interested to learn that some sentences have a third basic part. It is called the complement. Now, the complement is a sentence completer. It helps to complete a sentence. It completes the meaning that is begun by the subject and verb. So some subjects and verbs are complete without another part. Now, there's some, okay, you can have a subject and a verb, and you don't need anything else. For example, Tyrell and George studied. Subject and verb, and it's a complete sentence. You don't have to add anything else. It's fine by itself. Now, we can add more there, but you don't have to. So you could say Tyrell and George studied their books. And it's still a good sentence, but you don't have to add books. You can just say Tyrell and George studied, and it's fine. But if you did studied a book, then that's a complement. It just adds to the sentence. It complements it, okay? It adds on. Now, some subject and verbs are incomplete by themselves. So if you just have a subject and a verb, but you don't have anything else, it's not a complete sentence sometimes. For example, in your book, it is the student found. Well, you're left wondering, the student found what? So it's not a complete sentence. You can't just say the student found. That's not a complete sentence. So you need to add something to complete the sentence, and that is going to be called a complement. So you could say, the student found his book. The noun book, okay, book is a noun, that completes the meaning. It is a complement. So the student found a book. The word book is a complement. It completes the sentence. So a good way to find the complement, you're going to have to learn how to find the complement, is to say the verb and then ask what or whom. So you have the student found what or whom? Found his book. So if I want to find, okay, what's the complement in that sentence? I ask, the student found is the verb, so say the verb, found what? Found whom? Well, did he found his? No, that doesn't make sense. He found book. So the book is the complement. So always that helps me. I still use that today to help me find complements. As I say, found what? Found whom? Found book. And that's how you find it, if it makes sense. Now, on the look closely. Look closely. It says, always look for a complement after the verb. So a complement is never going to come before the verb. The verb is right here, found. It's always going to come after found. Remember, not all verbs need complements. So you don't always have to have a complement. So if it was the student studied, well, you can just say the student studied. You don't have to add anything else. It's a complete sentence. So it doesn't need a complement, but sometimes they do. A complement can be a noun, pronoun, or adjective. So a complement can be a noun, a person, place, or thing. It can be a pronoun or an adjective. A complement will never be a prepositional phrase. This is going to be important for you to remember later on. A prepositional phrase starts with a preposition, in, between, among. So in the books, among the trees, okay, that's never going to be a complement. That's its own thing, a prepositional phrase by itself. The complement is never going to be in a prepositional phrase. Now, read subject, verb, complement. If they do not make sense, you have picked the wrong words. Try this in the sentence below. So if I were to say, student found book, that makes sense. So if you read the subject, the verb, and the complement and it makes sense, then it works. But if I were to put student found early, though that doesn't make sense, so that's not a complement. So on the think, study the following sentences which all contain complements. The last 5 are unmarked. Can you identify the complements? So look at the ones there, and then we'll do some of the 5 together. Well, we'll do one of them. So my name is Jared. So find the subject and verb first, always. Name is. Then you ask the question, is what? Is who? Is Jared. That answers the question. What is his name? It's Jared. I ate. Who? What? Well, I can't do a prepositional phrase. So let me write this one out for you. I ate eggs for breakfast. Now, some people will probably want to say, I ate who, what? I ate breakfast. That makes sense, but what is this? If it starts with for breakfast, that makes this a prepositional phrase. A complement can never be a prepositional phrase. That's one of the rules. So if you take it for breakfast out, because it's a prepositional phrase, I ate who or what? I ate eggs. So eggs is your complement, not breakfast. Be very, very careful of prepositional phrases. That is something that I struggled with sometimes. So make sure you look for a prepositional phrase first. If it's a prepositional phrase, then you know that that is not your complement. So look over the rest, and then let's do number 8 together. And then you guys can do the rest together on your own and see if you are understanding. So, Ryan can ride. Might help if I spelled that right. Ride a horse well. Okay, so you find the subject first, Ryan. What is the verb? Can ride. What can Ryan ride? Can ride what? Can ride whom? Well, you can say can ride well, but that is not a noun or a preposition. Sorry, that is not a noun or a pronoun or an adjective. So you're talking about can ride, if you're answering the question whom or what, well doesn't make sense. Can ride whom? Well. Can ride what? Well, no. That answers the question, how can he ride? But you're not answering those questions. You're answering can ride what? Can ride a horse. So horse is your complement, not well. So remember to ask the question, can ride what? Can ride whom? Can ride well. That is your complement. Okay, so moving on to page 271, we're going to learn there are several different types of complements. There's 4 different types. The first one we're going to learn about is a direct object. These are complements that come after an action verb. That's a verb that does something, okay, does an action. So a direct object is a noun or pronoun that follows an action verb and receives the action from that verb. It answers the question what or whom, just like we were saying. So Tyler found what? Found whom? Found his dog. So found dog. So remember, found is an action verb. It's not a helping verb. It's not a linking verb. It does something. He's actively looking for his dog. It's an action. So dog is the direct object. That is it's a type of complement. The shortstop caught the ball. Catching something, that's an action. He caught something. Caught what or whom? Caught ball. So he caught the ball. Ball is the direct object. Okay, I called my aunt in Kansas last night. Okay, I called whom or what? Well, I didn't call Kansas. And remember, in Kansas, that's a prepositional phrase. So that can't be the direct object. It can't be a complement because it's a prepositional phrase. I called last night. That doesn't answer the what or whom. I called what last night? No, that doesn't make sense. I called aunt. I called my aunt. That makes sense. Whom did you call? My aunt. So that answers the question whom or what. So aunt is the direct object. Now, remember to not get confused with prepositional phrases. Whenever you do one of these sentences, write out the sentence, find your subject, find your verb, and then find the prepositional phrase. Because if you find the prepositional phrase, you know that your object, your direct object, is not going to be in there. So if you find the prepositional phrase, then you know that that can't be your direct object. So your direct object is somewhere else. Okay? So always do that. Find your subject, verb, and then if you need to, if it has a prepositional phrase in it, find the prepositional phrase, and then you can find your direct object. Okay, so you can skip the right A under that and just do the think B. Okay, underline the group of words in the parentheses that will give this sentence a direct object. Be ready to explain your answers. So for example, mother walked up the street or the dog around the block. Which one will give it a direct object? Mother walked up the street. Is there a direct object there? Walked what? Whom? It doesn't answer those questions. Up the street is a prepositional phrase, so you don't want to use that. So mother walked the dog around the block. Walked what? Walked whom? Walked the dog. So dog has a direct object there, so you would use that phrase. So do the rest of them together. Let's do the first one together, actually. We read, and then you can say either a book or late last night. Now I want to use the one that gives me a direct object. Now I could say we read late last night. That's a sentence, but is that a direct object? We read who, what, read late. Does that answer what or who? No. It's not a what, it's not a who. So we read who, what? We read a book last night. The book answers the question who or what. So book is a direct object. So you want to use we read a book last night, and that will give you a direct object. So remember, don't get confused with prepositional phrases. Make sure that you don't use a prepositional phrase because you can't have a direct object in a prepositional phrase. It has its own object. So go ahead and do the rest of Think B together, and that's all that you're doing for the day, okay? If you have any questions, go ahead and put them under the video, and I will try to help you out, okay? Bye, guys.